Hello, and welcome to Havoc Wargaming, dedicated to bringing you the uncommon. For those of you who haven't met me, my name is Ron, and today I'm going to do a review and gameplay video on the Quar's War, Clash of Rifles, by Zombiesmith Games and Wargames Atlantic. So let's get started. Quar's War, or games based around Quar, are not a new game idea. They stem from a sort of peculiar arrangement, sort of backwards how a lot of game companies work. Instead of it stemming from a set of rules that was miniature agnostic, it was a set of miniatures originally that were rules agnostic. In fact, there's a number of videos you can find online, or people who were playing, at least one video, the people who were playing the game using the song of blades and drums, or whatever you want to call the shakos and bayonets and whatever those different games are. I'm fond of those roles. I think it's a great example of just how versatile those roles are, that people were using them to play with their Quar. For those of you who don't know, what is a Quar? Quar is an alien race. This is basically a science fiction game. It's based on this sort of grim, dark concept of science fiction wargaming, with the addition that instead of it just being grim, the main characters are basically aardvarks. They are a insect-eating alien creature who have been involved in a long war, a war that has continued for 700 years on their planet. So it's referred to often as being grimsical. And it's been getting a lot of excitement or press recently, been brought back into attention of the gaming world because of the partnership between Zombiesmith Games and Wargames Atlantic. Wargames Atlantic has released this two-player set. It comes with 24 figures, it comes with the new set of Rhyfler rules, and some cardboard you can cut out to make tokens. There's some dice in there, a limited QRS. There's even, I don't know if you can see this easily or not, but the box is even printed with terrain that can be cut out. It's sort of cartoonistic and simplistic. I haven't actually done anything with it because, well, I'd rather use real terrain. But it's still a nice idea, a funny idea, and that's a little too whimsical for me. So what I'm going to do is here's the six-sided dice that come with it. There's just regular six-sided dice. What we're going to do is I'm going to go over and take a look at some of the features of the game on the gaming table, and show you how the game rules play and how the game works. So let's go to the gaming table. I mentioned that the box comes with 24 plastic figures. They're divided on the sprues between Croftians and the Crusaders. It seems the Quar have always been at war. When the first wandering clans of insect gatherers built their low mud-walled buildings, it was as much to keep out other Quar as the wild animals. As they first learned to make tools to get food, they learned quickly to make tools to defend themselves. The mud walls quickly became fortified citadels, and then city-states. In 5,000 years of civilization, the only constants of the culture have been the changing of the seasons, the month of storms, and the threat of war. The Quars are the inhabitants of a rugged, mountainous, and storm-racked world called Alwyd. Their planet is warm, like ours, and shares many of the same characteristics. One notable difference, however, is all of Alwyn is tormented by the worst storms imaginable, with Sithwin, the month of storms. Every third year, at the end of the calendar, these sandstorms drop sand thousands of miles from the nearest desert, snow falls in the tropics, black blizzards scour croplands down to bedrock. A terrible time, but the Quar are used to terrible things. For to be a Quar is to be resilient. Quar are just like you and me, perfectly normal creatures bereft of magic or supernatural powers or otherworldly technologies. They do eat bugs, though, and lots of them, which is why they have long, agile snouts and even longer tongues. Most Quar, when they're not fighting each other over slights real or imagined, are farmers, are tradequar, or merchants. Mostly they live simple, happy lives. Mostly. In their native tongue, Alwyd means home, and to a Quar, nothing is more important. The patch of dirt, the tiny hovel full of kits and kins, these are the things most Quar gladly devote their lives to. Most Quar. But there are other Quar. Ambitious, striving Quar, for which a mere warm bed and full belly are not enough. These are the ones that scheme, that connive, and that their machinations bring whole nations and kingdoms into conflict. Constant conflict, brutal conflict, for the history of Alwyd is written in blood. So the idea of the game is that the Quar have been involved in the Long War for some 700 years. It's recently been refreshed by the Crusaders. The Crusaders are the rebels. The Crusaders are of the opinion that this long war is being designed purposely to keep the powerful in power. And the Crusaders are of the opinion that by pushing and making the war worse, they will actually bring an end to the war once and for all. The two sides involved, the first side here, this is the Coftrians. The Coftrians are the royalists. They are actually representatives of several different kingdoms. There are a lot of different factions in the fluff for this game and in the older rule stuff, and I imagine if the new plastics are successful and the Wargames Atlantic stuff is successful, that we will eventually see those things being introduced to the game. In fact, there's already been an introduction of a number of extended and additional pieces. Coftrians are traditionalists. They believe in the old ways and they're supporting and putting their lives on the table for what they consider important in that. I mentioned the plastic set comes with 12 figures for each army, but in both cases their basic squad structure is built around 10, but their squad structures are different. The Coftrians are commanded by a Yadril. A Yadril seems to be basically their junior officers. Maybe he's a lieutenant. This is the Yadril here. He's in command of the whole group. And then it's divided into a rifle section that usually I put my Yadril with. This is 6 Rhyflers, all armed with Harlechs, which is the Coftrians' long rifle. It's a weapon that gives them a slightly better range over the average weapon of the Crusaders. A well-made piece of equipment, old design, like anything they do is old. Then it has a team over here. This is the Krian team. This is the Krian here. I don't know if you can see that. The Krian is an automatic weapon. It's basically a light machine gun. So there's a man, Rhyfler here, with a Harlech that can either fire on his own, or if he's in base-to-base contact, he acts as a loader to the Krian. And then the Milwar. The Milwar is basically the NCO of the unit, or of the squad. So I could be using those terms wrong. They're not defined anywhere. It's possible that a Yadril is a sergeant and the Milwar is just his corporal. There are officers of a higher rank, but they're not really playing a point in the game yet. Their stats and their point values are written in the rules, though. Iskarten is their officers, and they're armed with pistols and swords. I do have some. They are now released both on the Zombiesmith page and on the Wargames Atlantic page. They're doing them in Seocast. Most of these men are armed with a Harlech, and there is the one, as I mentioned, at Krian, and the Yadril is carrying a Doru. A Doru is basically a submachine gun. It's a little automatic handheld weapon. So those are the Croftians. They have grenades. They have a choice of either smoke grenades or fragmentary grenades. So over here we have the Crusaders. The Crusaders are more modern, they're more efficient, and they're more guided by modern principles. They are the rebels. They've been very, very successful. The idea is very appealing to the young, non-noble Quar. This idea of more of a merit-based world and reality. And they've been very successful, and they've been taking over some of the smaller regions and combining their efforts. Again, their squad is made of 10 men. Again, it is commanded by a Yadril. Their Yadril is armed with a bogan. A bogan is their standard weapon. It's smaller, a little more portable than the Harlech, but it pays for that in a reduced range. The Harlech has a range of 8 inches, and these bogans have a range of 6, which does hurt them a bit in the field. Because of that, now they break their fire team into 3s instead of just the 2 like we mentioned earlier. They have 3 equal-sized fire teams. Each one has 2 bogans and 1 Rishi. The Rishi is their longer rifle. It has the same range as the Harlech. It is a little slow to maneuver, so they have bayonets on them for hand-to-hand. So there's 3 of those Rishi. Each of the fire teams has a Rishi and 2 bogans, and their Milwar is over here, actually leads one of those sections. Being plastic figures, these are Wargames Atlantic plastic figures, all the ones that I have on the table right now. I mentioned they come with 24, so there's extra figures actually And there's several different things you can do and changes and ways you can mix and match the different parts to make the figures you want. I've tried to differentiate my commanders, usually by having a hand that's directing. That was easier with the Koftrians, because the Koftrians actually have pointing hands. But they do not have pointing hands for the Crusaders. So in the case of the Crusaders, I used empty hands that were based for either holding grenades or other equipment or other weapons, and just stuck them there. Also in the case of the Yodril, I gave him a soft cap. But there's a lot of different choices and options and extra little goodies you can tack on these guys. There's little grenades and various packs on their back that go together in different ways. So a number of different things and changes you can make. Of course, that's always one of the greatest advantages of plastic figures, is the versatility and the different things you can do with them, not to mention the price. I alluded to earlier some of the other figures. The Zombiesmith has been making this game for a while. There's a number of different versions of the rules out there. There's also basically two different games. There is the game that they call a Rhyflers Pocket book. That game is the 28mm skirmish game, and that's what the modern game that's been released through Wargames Atlantic is. But there's also a series of different rule sets for 15mm. They may actually do more too. There may be 6 and 15, I can't remember. At the Zombiesmith page, there's different scales and things available. So you can play this in a much larger scale. I was talking about figure scale. I'm now speaking of conflict scale. You can play it as full armies. There's what they call tractors, there's armored vehicles, there's aircraft. There's also a video game of the game out there, but we're going to be talking mostly about the Rhyflers Pocket book. The Rhyfler is the term for the individual soldier or trooper the new set of rules is based upon. I mentioned there's a number of characters around, or new figures. There's actually figures that have been around forever that are metal figures that you can get from Zombiesmith. I think you could use them with the new Wargames Atlantic figures. I've been told that there's some slight variations in the way their necks are shaped. It certainly doesn't bother me from what I've seen of the images. I haven't seen any of those in person, but I would think they'd be perfectly usable together. I don't find it an offensive difference. They're now doing a new line of those figures to go with these plastics. I think they're CO cast. Those are now available both at the Zombiesmith page and at the Wargames Atlantic page. There's things already mentioned in the rules, like I mentioned the officers who have roles listed there, but there's figures now available that are not mentioned in the rules, that do not have the point values for, and they don't tell you how to use them. Those rules are available. You can get those through the author of the game on his excellent Facebook page. You're going to hear me mention a few problems as I go through this with the rules and with the organization. But the writer of the game is brilliant in supporting this game. He is very quick to respond to your concerns, to address interests or wishes. Like just yesterday, some people complained about the QRS in a similar way that I'm about to complain about the QRS. And he agreed to create a new one and was asking the supporters of the page on that list what they want to see in the QRS. So brilliantly responsive, very, very quick. That's something to keep in mind with anything I'm going to say about these rules, because I do have some problems with them. They're really coming from the fact that it's not a professional game writing company, I think, more than anything else. But the man who created the game and looks at it as a labor of love is so incredibly supportive. Other things that the game comes with. I might as well talk about the QRS right now. This is the QRS. The only problem I have with the QRS, it is only one page. The other side is basically an unnecessary poster showing a Crusader overlooking some part of the countryside. This is incredibly limited. It's amazing what is not on here. It does have stats for the two sides as they existed, the game box and the symbols of those. These are useful to have. I don't know if they needed to be on the QRS, but it is nice to have it readily available for you. I think a little card of these would be better, and I'll probably make some and just keep adding the new units as they get created onto them, and then maybe laminate them, and then they could be like the size of a postcard or something. They don't need to be this big. The QRS is basically just ranged combat. There's ranged combat, there's melee combat, there's grenades. I didn't mention that. The Crusaders have the access to smoke grenades and fragmentary grades too. So there's grenades, there's pluck and how it works and what you can use it for. And all of those things would be really nice if they were on the QRS readily available and easily found. This is made more important because the actual rule book, this is the actual rule book, nicely well done, beautiful art all the way through it. There's Fluff, a Crusader right there on the cover page. Here's a map of the world. Unfortunately, it does not have a index. A lot of rules don't. I wish they all did. They do sort of have a better QRS to the rear of the book. And this may be why they didn't think about doing a bigger one or a better one on that card. What to do with out of action is on here. You actually start remembering this pretty quick anyway. The grenades and how they work are both on here. The range combat, this is just a copy of what was on the QRS I showed you. The melee combat is in here. So the only thing that's not readily available on that section is the pluck. And pluck is really hard to remember what you can do with it. I'm not going to play a game, but I would like to play a turn or two to give you an idea of how the game unfolds. But I thought I would talk about the parts. I showed you a picture of the dice earlier. The dice that came with the game are just basic six-sided dice. There's, I don't remember how many there are, maybe 9. I don't think that was a requirement for anybody likely to buy this game, but a lot of games, and this one may be one that's doing that, is really reaching out to try to reach new markets and to step beyond war gamers and act as a crossover game. So maybe that's why they're including the six-sided. Mine roll really badly, so I'm going to be using some better quality dice, Chessex dice, instead. It has, simple terrain rolls, basically. There's 3 different levels of cover, light, medium, and heavy. Heavy, the rules described as being bunkers. Terrain can block line of sight or not block line of sight, and it slows your movement to half. The game specifically mentions if any of your movement is in the terrain, all of your movement is half, which I think is mostly just a way of keeping the game simple. The game is really short. How long a game is based upon how many points you are playing. If you're playing 2 10-man units like we have here, the basic squads, that's 350-ish points, somewhere right around in that, or 250, I think it's 250. The average game that they recommend is 300, and this is just under that. I also mentioned there are 2 extra figures for each side in that box. So you can make an officer figure by custom making them, or make a sharpshooter figure and figure out how you want him to be represented. A friend of mine made him a pilot and has built a kite. There aren't any rules for kites yet in the new game, but he's already built and is ready to have a kite when there are. That being said, the author has also mentioned that the old rules are easy to merge into these rules. So if you wanted to use things from the old rules, there's no reason you can't. I haven't done this yet, but some of my friends have already used tractors, which don't even exist in the new version of the game yet. So what we're going to do is we're going to set up the table as if we were playing one of the scenarios. The scenario in question we're going to play is the basic one. It is just a meeting engagement, typical sides coming out from either side. 2 patrols meet on the field of battle, both seek a victory that only one will achieve. I probably shouldn't bother with this exact one because I just ran this as a game that I just posted. We're not really going to do the whole game, we're just going to really show some of it works, so it doesn't matter a whole lot. The deployment, each side will decide who deploys the Rhyflers first, and the patrol first deploys starts its battle as active commander. Each commander may deploy his Rhyflers up to 8 inches in from his side of the battle. Oh, I was going to speak about terrain, and I just realized I hadn't continued with that. There's so many different things you can do with the terrain in this game. They've made it very clear that the planet in question has all the different terrain that Earth has. So you could have mountains, you could have forests. There's a great video that shows a Crusader storming trenches. Trenches are an excellent terrain for this game. I intend to build a trench board eventually. Endless amount of things you can do with terrain. Some people are just using villages. You can decide what you want their buildings to look like and go however you want with that. I just have a normal countryside here with a couple of bomb craters in it. Go ahead and just set the Crusaders up first. Then we do the same thing with the other side. Terrain as we're using it now, I'm considering these tree boards to be woods. So anything that's actually within the base will be considered woods. We're going to call them light woods, so they're only going to be giving light cover. There's rocks within them. We will consider the rocks to be medium. I'm going to do that because the rules specifically refer to heavy cover as being bunkers. So a rock might count as a bunker, I suppose, but I think a bunker being designed for actual cover is probably better We'll consider the characters block line of sight, and also you won't be able to see through the woods to their side. Because I'm calling them light, we'll let people see into them, but they're not, you won't be able to target through them to people on the other side of them. So nothing here is actually blocking line of sight unless the figures are prone behind the rocks or behind the craters or in the craters, in which case they'll be completely out of line of sight. And that'll be important, as you'll see as the game unfolds, because people are going to be doing that. I mentioned pluck. Each side is going to begin the game with 5 pluck. I've seen people use dice. I'm using a little white glass beads. Pluck gives you additional things you can do. This is, I'm going to read the list off to you. This is what I wish was on that chart, because it's easy to forget what some of these things are. And if you forget what you can do with pluck, then you will forget to use it. It's an in-game resource used to perform special actions and occasionally bend the rules. So pluck can be used to increase a rifler's skill by 1 to change a failure to a success. Increase a rifler's might roll by 1 to change the result of damage inflicted. Using a point of pluck to move a rifler up to 1 inch without spending an action. It is necessary to make a charge attack. Each commander begins with 5 pluck. You will also gain pluck by putting an enemy out of action. If you tend a wounded roll, that's when somebody is out of action, and you roll a 1 or 2, you get a pluck. If you perform a steady action, you will get a pluck. And if the leader performs a regroup action, which basically takes a whole turn, he can get 3 to 5 pluck. The terrain qualifies as clear, difficult, and impassable. So most of this is going to be clear. The pieces of actual terrain on the table we're going to call difficult, and that's what was the half movement. I didn't finish reading the objectives of the meeting engagement. The primary objective is to destroy the enemy's riflers. So whoever has the most standing at the end will get objective points. That's the primary. And the secondary is to gain ground. So for every rifler you have past the middle point of the table. The board I'm using, this mat is actually for Don't Look Back, and because of that, created to mark out quarters for the rules of that game. So this is the half point straight through here. So we're playing with just under 300 points. I noticed when I watched the game being played on the tabletop that they would call this a 200-point game, probably because it was under 300 points. I was calling this a 300 points because it's between 200 and 300. Reading this, I still think that's the case. This is an example of what I said earlier. There's things that aren't clear in the rules. The categories are 100 less is 2 turns, 200 is 3 turns, 300 is 4, and 400 and plus is 5. So I'm thinking that, no, that would be, no, maybe this, I think it's 3 turns. That doesn't make sense either way. If it's 100 or less, it's 2. So that would imply 100 to 200 must be 3, which would be 200 to 300 is 4. But either way, you get a group that doesn't fit the rules. The last time I ran a game, it didn't go as long as it should have anyway. It also does claim right in here that some of them have to be achieved as quick as possible. It's not clear to me that it actually has to be a limited game anyway. The way the game works, this doesn't work as a solo game because of the next aspect of the game. The active player, as we said right now, because of the setup, is going to be the Crusaders. They're attacking. They got the setup first, which means they get the first turn. So what will happen, there's these cards that come with the 2-player set. They're beautiful cards. These cards are really, really nice. This is the back of them. They all have these little autumn-looking trees on the back. The way the turn would normally work is the Crusaders are starting, so or the Croftians would pull a card. Well, the very first thing we do is we discard one without even looking to see what it is. That's to try to dissuade card counters, so we don't know now how many cards are actually in the active deck. So you end up with a little twig. It's got 4 leaves. That's how many activations the opponent has. The opponent does not know how many activations he has. I would keep this on my side, and I know he has 4. He does not know. He knows he has at least 3, because no cards have less than 3 and no have more than 5. He has a series of things he can do as actions. Movement actions are move. That's the normal movement that's listed on his card. It's mostly 5 inches. If he ends up in base-to-base with an opponent, he is engaged, which changes his status. He can sprint. That allows him to move up to double his movement allowance, but he can never use that to go within 2 inches of an enemy rifler. These both cost 1 action. He can jump. That varies. There's rules for how that is handled. He can disengage. He has to make a skill check to do that, or he will get attacked. The combat actions are ranged attack, shooting obviously, supporting fire. When one of your rifles fires at an enemy target using pluck, you have to use pluck for supporting fire, but it allows friendly riflers within 4 inches that have line of sight to also join in that shooting and increases the possibility of hit on the skill check. Aim shot, that's a 2-action move, and that removes your range penalties. Overwatch, that's how it works in most games. Overwatch is a 1 action, and it lets you perform your actions later on the other player's turn. Opportunity fire. Opportunity fire does take a pluck to do, and that's actually on your opponent's turn. It's kind of like Overwatch, except you didn't plan it in advance. It has a negative because of snapshot, which is the maneuvering of your weapon, but it allows you to react to what your opponent's doing in their turn if you have the pluck. Area fire, certain weapons like the automatic weapons can attack multiple characters in an area. They typically get a modifier if they do not do that, if they're only fire at 1. Grenades cost 2 actions to throw. Oh, there's also leadership actions. There's a group movement that costs 2 actions to do, but it only counts as 1 action, and everybody that you move can do the same move. However, it's limited by whatever your leadership score is. It's usually like a 2-5, which means he can move up to 2 or up to 3 figures that are within 5 inches. So it's the first number is how many he can order. The second number is how close they have to be to him. It's 3-4 for the Yogdrals, and it's 2-3 for the Millwars. It's only a move. It doesn't let you do like attacks and things like that, but it allows you to move them around. There's also something called regroup. That takes the entire card, so it wouldn't matter how many leaves you have on there, but and it is a leadership action, but it allows you to bring them back, and you get pluck based on the card's value. The recovery actions, I should probably mention those, but we'll see those as we go, is steady. That just gives you an extra pluck point. You do nothing and you get a pluck point. That costs 1 action. Recover, that's 1 action. That's to get rid of gobsmacked, which is kind of like stunned in the game. We will see that. Tend wounded. When figures get knocked out of action, you don't know their circumstance or their situation until they're tended, and that also takes 1 action. There's a number of special abilities. Hopefully we won't forget those, and we'll cover them as we go. I mentioned like leader is one of those because they're starting. I've pulled a card. They don't know it, but they have 4 actions. They know they have at least 3. So I think the first thing we're going to do is we're going to go ahead and do a group action. Crusader's Yawdrill is 3-4. He can move up to 3. They have to be within 4 inches. So he's going to order them forward. This takes two of his actions, so he's only got 2 left. But, oh, the reason it only counts as 1, I didn't mention that. Anybody when you activate can only do 2 actions per card. Right, so that's why this matters, the 2 for 1. This doesn't count as both their actions, because it only counts as 1 action, even though it took 2 of the card. They're only allowed to do 1 combat action. That's going to count as 1 action to take 2. They know they have a 3rd. So I'm going to go ahead and move the Yawdrill up with them. He's limited because he's in the trees. Well, he could have sprinted. So they could have all sprinted. So that'll take him there. So that would be 3 actions. At this point, because he knows he has 3 but doesn't know he has 4, he would now ask me, do I have 4? And remind you, here's the card I have, so he does. So I would say, yes, you do, and he would decide what to do. Now, if he decided something now that took 2 actions, like aimed fire or a group command, he would then have wasted the order because he doesn't have 2. He only has 1 available to him. He doesn't know that yet. So it's not a very good idea at this point to try doing a double action. Maybe I will just shoot because of that. So I think that's what I'm going to do. I think I'm going to, my large fire team is here. So I'm going to go ahead and do a shoot. I'm going to shoot the orange bogan in the front there. The Rhyfler is with a bogan. His skill check starts at 12. The bogan only has a range of 6 inches, so this is going to be full 3 bands. The first thing he does, he says he's shooting. I have to decide what I'm going to do. My reactions, my choices here, reactionary fire, or dive for cover, or if I was working on a project, I could try to do that. If it was a game scenario, like I was trying to burn a building down or break a door down or something. It's not a bad idea to determine what you're going to do based on what you think your odds are. I think that guy's actually in the open to me. My range is a little better, so I will do the reactionary fire. So he's going to shoot back if he's here able to shoot. Because I'm doing an action other than dive for cover, that gives me a -1, brings it down to 11. A dive for cover would have been a -4. For each full range band, there's a -1, so that's going to be a -3. Well, that brings me to 8. We are in light cover. That's going to bring us to 7. We're going to roll 3d6. Oh, that is not good at all. So I needed a 7. What I got was 15. The attacker fails the skill check but rolls 13 or more. And if I had charged to cover, I would be able to move my guy where I wanted to put him. If he failed his roll but rolled less than 13, he would have decided where my guy went in cover. And if he rolled 17 or 18, things actually happened to him. So this is a risky roll. The game is actually kind of dangerous to both sides whenever you do something. But this was not a dive for cover. This was a return fire. So what that means is he missed me, and I get to shoot back. He does not get to react to my shoot back. Coftrans. My skill with the Harlock is 12. The Harlock has 8. So I only have a -2 for range. I've never known for sure how this works. I don't know whether I get no mod for because he's doing no action, or if he gets the -1 for chooses an action other than dive for cover, but we'll go ahead and use that. I'm at a 12. The range is going to drop that to 10. That brings it down to 9. He is sort of, I would argue, in the open. I need a 9. So I rolled over that. I rolled an 11, so that is a failure. It is less than 13, but he didn't dive for cover. When I watched this being played on tabletop, they counted that as a combat action, the return fire. I don't see anything in the rules that say that, and it actually says you cannot take more than 1 combat activation, so I don't think that is a rule. I think you can always return reactionary fire. You don't, because often it's safer to dive for cover than it is to return fire. It gives a much better modifier. It's a -4 instead of only a -1. But it does make it harder for you to get your shots off. You're going to find that people are running diving for cover more often than they are reactionary firing. He would then ask, does he have a 4th? He does. He does have a 4th. I don't know what I'm going to do. I could fire again, and I could fire with the longer weapon. That's what we're going to do. We're going to fire with the longer weapon. This time he's going to fire the guy that's closest to him in the middle, and I'm going to dive for cover. So we'll show you how that works. It's not 3 full bands anymore. I should mention, if you're playing this for real, it's a better idea just to roll the dice, and then if you rolled low, to decide whether or not you have to add everything up. It's much quicker, but you're going to find they miss a lot. I did choose to dive for cover. That's a -4, so now it's an 8. 6 because of the range bands. I'm in light cover. That's 5. So that's going to be everything. We roll a 5. I roll the 3 dice, and I get 12. It's a fail, but it's under 13. If this was a regular game, the defender would get to decide where to move the figure to. The figure has to be in cover. Sometimes he ends up dropping to prone to make it cover, but he has to be moved in cover, and he's moved up to 1 full movement. So it's 5 inches. So I'm going to want to put him somewhere that behooves me, not them. What I'll go ahead and do is I'll move him back here. That's 5 inches, and it's way in cover, but it sets him back. Because I rolled less than 13, he dives for cover. You know, he can still be standing, because he could get in cover without going prone, but he's gobsmacked. It's like stunned, and he has to deal with that before he can do anything. That was the last card I have, so if he said he had 5, I'd say no, and then we'd go ahead and get rid of that. At this point, it would be our turn to activate. So again, this time it would be, so the Coftrans are going to have 5. They, like I said, they wouldn't actually know that. You'd have to create some new mechanism if you really wanted to play this as a solo game. I find many games can be played solo that aren't designed for it, but this game you'd have to do some thinking to figure out how to do that. I'm going to start with the group activation. For this group here, that's going to cost 2. Because they're already in rough terrain, they're only going to be able to move. Even if they do a sprint, they're only going to move 5 inches. But that's what we're going to do. We're going to do a sprint. That'll take us behind these trees at least, and try to get my automatic weapon team into place. in cover as soon as I can. So that takes 2 of the actions of the card, but only counts as 1 action as far as them having done things. So I would now ask, well, I don't have to ask, I can do a third. This group is so much harder to order, the big group, because there's too many of them in there. They have to move in 3s or in 2s. I think I would now decide what else I want to do, and I guess I'll go ahead and try to move guys forward. We just go straight up the middle. I'm going to do a sprint with this fellow. He's going to go straight to there. He's only going 5 because, as I was saying earlier, he's started in rough ground. And now I'd have to ask, do I have a 4? And I would be told I do. So I would move him. Maybe I should have moved there. No, they got me in a crossfire here. And now I would say, do I have 5? He would say yes. So we will move that one. And I know I don't have any more because you can only have 5. We have started to move across towards the middle of the table. I pull a card for them, I get 4. He's going to want to shoot because he's got shots now. We're going to activate the Rishi, which is way back there in the corner. It's way, way, way back in there. We're going to go ahead and activate that Rishi, shooting at the fellows in the open here. They're going to shoot the guy at the front, and he's going to dive for cover. It's going to be band 2 for the Rishi. So it's a 12. Because I'm diving for cover, that's going to drop to an 8. Because of the 2 bands, that's 6. There is absolutely no cover here. It's a 6. We're rolling really high. That's 14. It's going to be a miss, but I get to move for his dive for cover. It also means he's not gobsmacked. So I'm going to go ahead and put him in cover. I'm going to go ahead and put him behind there. That was only 1 action, though. I should have done aim fire. I am going to do aim fire for one of those bogans. So that's going to take 2 actions. This will bring him up to 3. He's going to aim at the front guy. The front guy there is going to dive for cover. Because he's doing an aimed action costs 2 action points, but it ignores the cover distances. So I'm going to have a -4, so it drops to 8 because of diving to cover, but that is it. So 8 heats. But I still roll high. I roll a 14. That's going to be enough to get him a full move into cover. This is not going well. He doesn't know how many he's got. You know, he knew he had 3. He just took 3. If he tried to do another aim and doesn't have 5, he'd lose the ability to do anything. So it's never a good idea to call for a 2-action thing when you're on turn 4. You don't even know if you have a 4th. Well, you will, because the first thing he'd say is, do I have 4? And I'd say yes, because he does. 4 is what the card actually was. But he doesn't know if he has a 5, so I'm gonna go ahead and fire with this fellow. And this time it is range band 2, because they've gotten closer. So, what was it, 8 a moment ago? 12, he's gonna dodge for cover. So 12, that drops it to 8. 2 bands drops it to 6. 9, 10, 11. This time they get to move to cover and I will be gobsmacked. They want to hold me back, so they're going to go ahead and move him back into the woods. Or should I just drop him? Yeah, I'm going to move him back into the woods. And he is gobsmacked. And they would ask if they have 5. They do not. So they pull for me. I only got a 3. Things are not going really well up here. I think what I'm going to do is try to move those guys into the tree. So they're going to do their command move and get us into here. That's 2. So we're going to go ahead and shoot with them. This will be their 3rd activation. They're going to shoot at the fellows that are 3 guys behind the rock there. That is hard cover, so that's going to hurt. Do I shoot back? I think what we want to do is dive for cover. In this case, because I'm firing a ranged weapon, I'm using my Krian, my automatic weapon, I can actually shoot all three of those guys, and I'm going to be rolling at them individually. So we're just going to go across the table, rolling for the one on the far right first, and then work our way across. I have a 12 to hit. They're diving for cover. That's going to make it 8. The last one is 2 bands. So it's a -1 for the other 2. 8, that's going to make it 7 for the first 2. They are in medium cover. Some cover is what it's actually called. So that's a -2. I'm not firing at one target, which would have given me a +2. So I need a 5 to hit. I have a loader, so that's going to make it a 4 to hit. I'm sorry, a 6 to hit. But as is typical for how this game has been going, I roll a 14. They dove for cover, so he's going to drop back to behind here. He gets to move. So I think he'll go prone. All right, the next one. 7. What did I say I needed? I think it was worse than that. I think I needed 6. So that almost hits. This time it's my decision where to send him. This guy's going to go all the way back to there, and he is gobsmacked. And then the last one, I need a 4 or higher. Oh, wow. Oh, that was... I got a 5. That would have been out of action if it was... Oh, this is an example. I'm going to spend one of my plucks. I'm going to spend that pluck, and that'll make that a success. So he is out of action. I don't have a good token to use out of action right now. He's prone, and I'm going to give him this blue thing to represent out of action. So he is out of action until somebody goes over and does a first aid, which will determine what his circumstances actually are. Their turn, they get a 3. They probably want to deal with that group. Standing up is an action. Dealing with medical would be an action. Getting rid of the... Oh, I got that pluck right back because I did take him out. I did make him out of action. I don't know that I want to leave that flank down. I think I'm going to do a group action to order this unit in to the hole. And start moving the boss. Do I try to move over there? Yeah, I'm going to try to move him over here to try to get that group. So that counts as 1 activation, but costs 2, so they have 1 more they can do. They're going to go ahead and shoot the Rishi. Now, my guys are going to get cover because of this, because it's firing over that, but the Rishi is still only in range band 1. It's a 12 to hit. I'm going to dive for cover with the automatic weapon there. That's a -4, so it brings it down to 8. 7 for the movement, and that cover is going to make it 5. So that was 10. So they can move me. They're going to move me back behind the rock. They're going to gobsmack me. I got a lot of gobsmacked guys. But that is 3. That's all they had. So my turn. The opponent pulls a 4. And the Croftians, what are we going to do? We have to start recovering. I'm going to go ahead and recover for 1. And then I'm going to move. He's in those woods. Oh, he could run. He could sprint. So I'm going to sprint him back up to there. Get him back in place. That's 3. So I ask if I have 4. I do. I don't think I want to shoot them there. That cover is pretty good right now. On the other hand, yeah, let us shoot. So that's only going to be a 1. So they're going to dive for cover. This is an automatic weapon again. So 12. Dive for cover makes it 8. The range is going to make it 7. Cover is going to make it 5. Loader is going to make it 6. So the first one is 9. Fails, but less than 13. So I'm going to push him out of the hole, and he's gobsmacked. The second one
it is 13 exactly, which means he wins. He's going to go prone. And the last one, 10. He's going to be knocked back. And he's going to be gobsmacked. That's all I have, though. So their turn. They get a 4. Well, the first thing I think I need to do is I think I need to move that officer. So he's going to activate for 1 to get back behind them. Then he's going to give a group command to them. He's going to order them forward. They can only go 5 because they're in terrain, so they're going to move to here. That is 3. He asks if he has 4. He does. So I will stand this guy back up and get him ready to shoot. Do I have 5? We do not. So, our turn. The Crusaders pull 5 for me. So I can do a lot of things. I'm going to go ahead and shoot the guy that just got back up. Actually, I think I can shoot all of those. Yeah. Yep, I can. So, what was it last time? It was a 7. We'll do the one in the hole first. Ooh, that's bad. I rolled a 17. 17, the attacker is gobsmacked. So my Krian was gobsmacked by that, which is going to end that turn. Still cost him his action. I'm going to remove the gobsmacked off of the man in the woods here who's been gobsmacked for a while. That's 2. And for 3, I'm going to order them to sprint forward to 3. I do have 4. So I will go ahead and remove the gobsmack on the guy in the back. Ask if I have a 5. I do. And he's going to go ahead and start moving forward to catch up with them. And that's the end of that round. Or that action. And we have one last card. This is pulled by the Croftians for the Crusaders, and they get 3. I'm going to go ahead and shoot the Krian. I'm only at a -1. He cannot react, so that's going to make it 11, but he is in cover, which is going to make it 9. I get a 12, so not enough to hit him, but enough to knock him back. I'm not sure what happens if you're gobsmacked twice. For my second action, I will move the Yadrol into the trench over here, and then he can order, that was second, I will stand up with him and ask if I have a 4th, and I do not. So that was the end of the first turn. Without all the explaining, when you know the rules, and as turns unfold, the turns get shorter, because of course you get less people and things start moving a little quicker. But that would be the end of the first turn, or round. So we shuffle all the cards. I flip my little counting die over. I'm using a D6 to keep track of turns. I really want to show you a hand-to-hand without faking it. I may have to fake it. All right, so again, we pull over the top card just to get rid of it. And the Crusaders pull a 4. The Croftians have to decide what they want to do. I really need to get these guys moving into cover before they get shot up. So that's the first thing I think I want to do. Command move for a sprint. Now they can do a full sprint because they're out in the open. So they're going to move a whole 10. And it is the odd roll, so he can do all of them, of the group that's there. That's 2. Do I have a 3? I do. Go ahead and move that off. Do I have a 4? I do. I'll move him back to where he was. Do I have a 5? I don't. So now it is their turn, and I get a 3. That's good for me. I'm going to do a group move over here, and the Yadril is going to order them just barely in his range into those woods. I don't need to roll for anything. They're going to come to here. Oh, this is going to get nasty. That is 1. I'm going to go ahead and move the Yadril to catch up to them. That's 2. Oh, that would actually be 3. That's all they've got. I only get 3. All right. If I was a little bit further back, oh wait, no I am, because we can only move 2.5. So I can spend a pluck. Let me see how this works. I think it's per guy. What we're looking at is a charge. A charge costs a pluck. Costs 1 action and 1 pluck. A ready rifler may spend 1 point of his pluck to perform a charge maneuver. So it's a lot of pluck. He has to move at least his full and up to double movement. Because we're going into terrain, its full is only 2.5. If he ends in base-to-base contact with an enemy, they immediately perform a free melee attack. Only the target of the charge can perform an opportunity fire. So this is part of where they can use pluck to fire back, to shoot as I come in. But I'm going to do this. We're going to start. Yeah, I'm going to start with the first guy there. We're going to spend a pluck and 1 action, and he's going to close with that guy. He gets a free hand-to-hand. Our first melee. 1 per additional friendly rifler engaged with the target. Right now, there isn't anyone engaged with him because of where he's at. So there's nothing for that. The target is not prone. It says behind a barricade. I think I'm going to count this rock as a barricade. It's not really, but it's kind of that. I am counting these rocks, so that's going to give him a -2. His attack normally is 12, so that's going to bring it down to 10. So the first thing we do is roll for that. So I'm going to roll, and I got 12. 12's a miss. Oh, he should have had a shoot first, so we should have done that. He has a shoot as I come in. It's going to be 12. It's only a -1 because I'm not doing anything different. So that's 11. No bans. They're shooting in cover, so I'm going to give them a -1 for that. Still, that's 10, man. He's probably not going to even make it. Oh, and I rolled a 5. Oh, that hurts. So that is a success, which means he is out of action on the way in. He does not make it in. But that does cost a pluck. The next one's going to charge in. Same thing. Run up to them. Rah. He's got to spend a pluck to do that. Oh, he got that pluck back because he knocked me out of action. Okay, so this time, 10, 11. That is going to be a miss. The swing for the hit. That's a 9. That's going to be a hit. He makes it in. He rolls. He does not get shot. He rolls successfully for his hit. So now we have to do the might roll versus toughness. The Croftian's might roll is, he's got a Harlech. It's 2d6 -1. I roll, oh great. I rolled a 2 against toughness of 4, so that's probably nothing. Yep, nothing happens. That was the second charge. I spent another pluck to do another charge. That's going to be this guy into the fight. He gets shot at on the way in. That's going to hurt. That's a 7. That's a hit. So he is out of action on the way in. Their turn. Uh-oh. They've got 5. So we're gonna see some fighting going on here. We're gonna move him forward. He doesn't get the free attack because this is but I could, no, I don't want to spend a, so that's 1 action to move, 2 is be his attack. 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14. So he gets 13. That's going to be a miss. But not enough for a bonus. The other guy's going to attack. This is 2, or 3 actually. That's 10, 15. This is not an automatic miss. Okay, so nothing back there. And the other one's going to... This is the 4th. He's got a +2. That one's a hit. He's armed with a bogan. 1d6 +2, 4, 5, 6. That beats the toughness. Target is gobsmacked. That took a lot. He is gobsmacked. And he does have 1 more action. So we'll bring this guy in here. They're taking that. But that's all they have. So my turn, and things are going bad. 4. All right, we're going to go ahead and charge in. They're firing, so they can't do anything now. Cannot shoot back. We're going to go ahead and roll for our attack. It's going to be 12. He needs 13. 9, 10, 11. He gets it, so that's a hit. This is my yaw drill, so he's a 6 plus 2. He's only got a 5, but that beats a Crusader's toughness. So that guy is gobsmacked. Oh, I shouldn't have had the +1, but I hit anyway. For my second action, I'm going to get rid of that gobsmacked. Now he's in a tough way. Well, he still has 2. So he's going to go ahead and swing at one of those guys. He's going to swing at the gobsmacked guy. Because then he'll need 14. 6, 7, 8, 9. Koftrian. He does 2d6 plus 1. 6, that's going to beat it. So he's gobsmacked again, which means he is out of action. So he's out of action, and we get a white back for that. That took 3. Do I have 4? I do. I'm going to go ahead and shoot. This is the last one. I'm going to go ahead and fire with the Krian at the guy in the hole again. 6, 10, 11. That's probably a miss. So that would be the end of that turn. I'm going to go ahead and pull their card. They get a 5. First thing I'm going to do, mostly just to show how the rules work. We haven't done any of these yet. So I'm going to go ahead and start trying to recover this flank over here. So the first thing I'm going to do is this guy's going to move over to here. That's 1. He's going to try to recover the down guy. So what we do is we roll on a chart. So we're going to do a 10 wounded. We just roll a d6. We got a 5. The Rhyfler is KIA. So this guy's actually dead. So he is gone. And that's basically how that works. On a 1 or 2, he would have recovered, would have been shaken, but he'd start prone. On a 3, he is ambulatory but can't fight. On a 4, he can't fight and isn't ambulatory. On a 5 or 6, he's just dead. So that guy is actually dead now. We'll go ahead and remove that for the second, or for the third, that would be. Bring him back up for 4. And then 5, I think 5, the thing to do is to get rid of this fighter over here. So we're going to go ahead and fight back over here. One of them gets 13. That's not going to do it. So nothing there. And I'm going to end this here because that's really showed everything except grenades. I have pretty much shown how it works. So that is this Quar's War, Clash of Rifles. I hope you've enjoyed it. If any of you have experimented much or played with Quar, either with this new set of rules or with any of the previous systems of rules, or in either of the scales that it's available in, go ahead and give it your comment and share us your opinions and thoughts in the comment section down below. Also, if you have ideas for any further content you'd like to see us produce here on Cry Havoc Wargaming, we look in the content section for those as well. We're not always really quick to jump on them. Sometimes my schedule and what I have available can restrict what I can do, but I do look at that for ideas of what to present here on Cry Havoc Wargaming. If you've enjoyed the video or found it useful, I hope you'll hit like, and if you'd like to receive further notifications for videos like this one that may help you determine how to better spend your time or money in your tabletop wargaming hobby, then I hope you'll hit subscribe and ring our notification bell. Till next time, cheers.